Welcome to Global Affairs video tutorial, and in our today's tutorial we are going to see foreign policy dimensions. Here we go. Based on alignment tendencies, we have three foreign policy dimensions. These are alliance, neutrality, and then alignment. Now let us see them one by one. Alliance are formal agreements signed between states in order to assist or help each other, a kind of mutual assistance. And when the country signed a formal agreement, official agreement, to provide mutual military assistance, we have foreign policy dimensions called alliance. Neutrality. This neutrality is a formal non-partisanship in world affairs. When a given country want to remain neutral, that means by keeping a low profile, neutrals may avoid some of the problems associated with alliance, particularly generating of potential enemies and the counter-alliance. So the advantage of neutrality is it reduces the potential of generating enemies. And Switzerland is the best example who followed this neutrality. And this country carried out neutrality to an extreme cases in refusing to be member with to the United Nations until 2002. The third foreign policy dimension based on alignment tendencies, non-alignment, and this has been the foreign policy pattern of most developing states during the Cold War. Most developing countries had a movement called non-alignment movement, that is abbreviated as NAM, in which they called for a new foreign policy path or choice. And during the Cold War, the countries who followed non-alignment movement were they disregarded the West, that is the capitalist, that was represented by United States of America, and also they disregarded the East Bloc, that was led by Russia, that is the communist bloc. So the non-alignment movement was they disregard both the communist bloc and the capitalist bloc, and they were demanding, they were calling for a new foreign policy path, which later leads to the South-South cooperation. It leads to the cooperation of South-South. Based on scope of activity of a state has in international relation, there are three patterns of foreign policy behaviors. These are global terms, regional terms, and the third one is isolationism. So when we look at one by one, global terms, a country such as United States of America defined its national interest in global terms, and this country has more or less, they have the capability to influence the world events, right? So United States of America acts at a global level, so global actor or global terms, and this demand a great economic power and a military power. So most countries of the world cannot follow these global terms because it demands high military and economic capabilities. But USA is following this policy because USA is a superpower, both politically and economically, as well as militarily. The second one is regional terms, and most countries in the world are essentially regional actors. They are categorized as actors of regional terms, and regional actors interact primarily with neighboring states. They interact with a neighboring state within the same geographical area. So we can take South Africa as example. South Africa is a regional actor in Africa in general and in Southern Africa in particular. And also South Africa is an important actor in uh, African Union, so-called AU. And China is the best candidate to assume global responsibility and leadership. China currently is hugely engaged in extraction activities and in construction activities and related investments in Africa. So, according to some research carried out during the last 5 years, the number of Chinese in Africa who came in the name of investment and in the name of different activities uh, reached around 60 million. So we have 60 million Chinese in Africa, and the effect of China is almost expanding to global terms, and China is more or less competing with United States of America to be the global actors. Based on mode of operation, that means based on modus operandi, we can also identify three patterns of foreign policy behaviors. These are multilateral, bilateral, and unilateral means. So multilateral means happens when a country or a state find a solution to problems through diplomatic forums in which several states participate. It can be in the United Nations. So the country who prefer multilateral means almost find or seek a solution to their problems through diplomatic forums and through participation of different states, and that's why it is called multilateral means. Different or multiple states uh, interact and participate within the problem solving uh, means. The other is bilateral means. This is when a country utilizes to solve its problem, when a country utilizes a country to country approach. This almost is related with uh, when a country chooses to solve problems by uh, contacting another country. So it is called country to country approach to solve problems. And the third one is unilateral means. This happens when the country chooses to solve the problem by themselves, by relying on themselves. The last of our today's presentation will be instruments of foreign policy. Instruments of foreign policy means the way through which a state executes a foreign policy is called an instrument of foreign policy. And the one best instrument of foreign policy followed by different states of the world currently is diplomacy. And a diplomacy is defined as the process between actors who exist within international system and who engage in private and public dialogue to pursue their objective in a peaceful manner. So diplomacy is a kind of a structured communication between actors. The actors can be two or more, and they actually engage in a private and a public dialogue. They engage in public dialogue and they pursue their objectives in a peaceful manner. So, diplomacy almost prefer uh, communication through peaceful means, pursuing objective to reach at it on a peaceful manner. And there are rules for effective diplomacy. The diplomats around the world followed some basic rules to employ uh, effective diplomacy. So the following are some of the major rules that diplomats have employed with greater effectiveness over the years. The first rules of effective diplomacy is uh, be realistic. So here, realistic in this sense means uh, to have a goal that match your ability to achieve them. So your goal or your plan should match with your capability or with your ability. The second rule of effective diplomacy is be careful about what you say. You have to give a great care for your words. Actually, the experienced diplomats plans out and weights words carefully, so they give value for each and every word they speak. The third is seek common ground. That is, um, dispute begins negotiations. Find common ground in them successfully. So almost any negotiation will involve some concession. So it is important to maintain a degree of flexibility. Understand the other side while you are uh, engaging in a diplomatic work. You have to understand the other side. So the way you can understand the other side is one is to appreciate an opponent's perspective even if you do not agree with it. The other is you have to be patient. It's important to just have a patience, and being overly anxious can lead to uh, concession that are unwise and they may convey weakness to an opponent, and also leave avenues of retreats open